Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. Women think that sociopathy is maturity, and that morality is immaturity. Unless, of course, the guy has a lot of money. Right? Then she'll praise him for his virtue, but only because, she wants to stay with him because he has a lot of money, right? Examples of how women think that examples of like women thinking that sociopathy is maturity. Example that I mentioned in that video, female amoral foolishness, that I originally called the Bulgarian girl. It had a black and white picture, I think it was a black and white picture, of the girl from Casablanca who asks Rick's advice about having sex with Claude Rains' character in order to get a visa for her and her husband, which she didn't want to do, but she was willing to do to get the visa, right? That's an example, and she acted like her husband was immature because he would find it to be a big deal. He'd get upset about it, right, if he knew that she was going to do that, right? So she had to do it behind her back, right? That's just one example. I can't remember the example now, but there was another example in a music video that I saw recently. It was the Lute, yeah. Loote is her band's name. It's like her and a guy. And then the song is called Your Side of the Bed. She said something in the beginning of the video about how like her ex-man would not be able to handle it, right? She says, "Hope you never hear this. You probably can't deal with it." And then she goes on to say a few more things, and then she talks about how she has a new man and he sleeps on his side of the bed, like her ex-boyfriend's side of the bed, and she basically misses her ex-boyfriend, but she has someone new who's kind of taking his place for the time being, right? That's what she says. She can't handle it, right? Like, I hope you never hear this because I don't think you could handle it, right? They act like it's immature of men. Men just aren't mature enough to handle it. If a woman tells the truth or admits certain things or whatever, right? Like, yes, in a sense, because men like to idealize women. And yes, you could say that's immaturity, but as far as like morality, women also view men as immature just because men are more moral than women are. Women think that, morality is immaturity and that, amorality is wisdom, right? Even though it's the truth is the exact opposite pretty much, right? So another example would be like women thinking that men getting extremely angry or disgusted over her cheating is a sign of men's immaturity, which is kind of similar related to the example of which I gave before, but not exactly the same. But this is just because women are sociopaths due to their promiscuity, right? Like it's their promiscuity that makes them sociopaths. If they were virgins, they would have sociopathic tendencies, but they wouldn't actually be sociopaths because they would not have lost their soul yet. Right, and women lose their soul when they lose their virginity and then break up with the guy who they lost their virginity to. Right. Another example of women, thinking that men are immature by being moral, and that women think that sociopathy is maturity and that morality is immaturity, right? Another example of this is women looking down on men who do their best to avoid lying, and men who also do their best to avoid being ruthless and other such things, right? So that's what I had to say in this video. I also wanted to mention another example of miscegenation propaganda, which is, it's not so much miscegenation propaganda as it's partially miscegenation propaganda, partially multiculturalism propaganda. There's a song called "Lose It" by Kane Brown, and Kane Brown looks like he's mulatto, like he's half black, half white, and the song is a country song. It's like pop country though, but most quote-unquote country these days is pop country. Not that I have anything against pop country, because I can't stand traditional country music, but I do like pop country music. So I don't have anything against the genre, but I have noticed, did you know that Country Music Television, the country music station on cable, is owned by MTV? Yeah, that's right. That's why they have that liberal propaganda show that masquerades as being a conservative show called Last Man Standing with Tim Allen, and he's got like 3 or 4 daughters, and so it's him and then all these other girls, and they're all like, a lot of them are like very liberal, and he's the only conservative really. But the whole show is basically just liberal propaganda for conservatives, right? It's to change the minds of conservatives, or at least make them more tolerant of all the changes that have already happened in society, right? Like, so that, like, one of them was about, we can't stop pushing feminism because we don't want the rights that we've gained to be lost. We don't want to have all these rights and things that we've gained, like the right to vote, repealed, right? This is This is to keep men, blue pill men from past generations from waking up and then wanting to repeal the female vote and things like this, right? You see, so this is what I mean when I say that this show is liberal propaganda for conservatives. It's liberal propaganda aimed at conservatives, and country music, I've noticed, is the same thing now. They use it to promote liberalism, right? And this country song by a mulatto, just the fact that he's a mulatto is multiculturalism propaganda, right? Because how many white people, how many white singers are there out there, right? Like, I'm sure they only picked him because he's mulatto so that they can push, the whole miscegenation thing, right? And the multiculturalism thing. It's not that this guy's necessarily a bad music artist, although I don't know if he writes his own songs. I would not be a bit surprised if he doesn't, not because he's half black, but because a lot of these artists don't write their own songs, right? Like, even if they co-write their own songs, there's often at least one or two, often three or four or five other co-writers on the songs, for all of their songs, or almost all of them, right? So I'm not saying anything against this singer, per se. I'm more saying that he probably would not have been given a record contract if the Illuminati did not want to promote this, right? So they're like, ooh, he's mulatto, we should push him, right? So I don't have anything against this Kane Brown guy. I have something against the fact that they're using him to promote multiculturalism and miscegenation, right? So that's your little dose of miscegenation propaganda for the day. This has been Redshift. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, thumbs down if you didn't. Peace trucks.